Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
But no, it's great. It's I just feel like you're walking on air.
Yeah, well, I am. That's correct.
Are you going back? What's your concept?
Yeah, my plan is to go back for as much time as possible. Hopefully, I'm aiming to have everything done here that I can get done here within 3 or 4 months. That's the plan.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And then just packing up, ditching your place, or?
Yeah, I'll rent it out or something.
Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Oh, great. And
adventurous.
So adventurous and fantastic. And I feel like you knew what you needed. The process of learning IFS and really taking it in. I mean, this is how these things can play out in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all working for me, I would say.
So amazing. I can't believe it. And
Thanks.
Just by chance, I happen to be feeling semi-euphoric myself. So
okay.
It'll be an interesting session on enthusiasm, lust for life or something.
All welcome here.
Even that.
Yes.
I really, it's just become important to me that you are doing well. And I feel like I never thought that, most people don't get a chance to feel their calling like this and their bliss.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's really sweet to know that you care.
Yes, I really do. And I like hearing you in love with life.
Yeah, see if I can keep it up.
Well, or just prepare for more.
That's right. So, ready to talk about you and your parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Want a minute or two of meditation before we start?
Yeah. Let's do a minute.
Okay, I'll set a timer. All right. Got any parts you'd like to get to know better?
I'm feeling pretty happy lately, like bordering on a little bit of euphoria. And that's exciting. I was I think, I mean, two things. One is I've told you my dad is dying, and he's a very almost like crazily enthusiastic person. Like he just believes the world is good, and he's had great luck in his life, and I've sort of worried that when I lose him, that I'll lose that sense, that just deep conviction that it's a good world.
Right.
And he's grateful for like all weather. Everything can be an adventure. Everything can be an adventure. Everything can have sweetness to it. He just, and I was worried about losing that life force, but I'm just spending time with him, absorbing. He says this is the happiest time of his life, because he's like just getting to savor his friendships and saying goodbye to a lot of people, and he just feels very lucky. Anyway, I've been just been spending a lot of time with him, absorbing it, and I feel like, I don't even know if this is true or not, but I've read that people like literally live in the neurons of people, like in some kind of mirror neuron. I don't know. I mean, of course, It's just like probably another kind of mysticism that someone gets into. Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like parts to me. I mean, I have my brother in my head, and my friends from high school are in there, and they're in my dreams, and they're in my
yeah, that feels really right. And that feels really right to me. Yeah, that they're really there. High school friends is a good one to think about, because even childhood friends, they're just keep showing up in my dreams, right? And that's he'll do that forever. And,
yeah. For the longest time, I thought I was like weirdly obsessed with my school friends, and I was like, oh no, I just am them. They're in me.
That's a great. Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I sort of felt like, it was when I saw this one friend of mine, I was like, why do I have all these dreams about her, and her like judgment of me? It was sort of a big, I just was like, she kind of was like disapproving about drinking and partying and stuff. And I guess I had kind of internalized that, and it's just like, of course. Right. And it's just been, actually, I've seen her recently, and just been really good to explore those dimensions, or like be real her, and then sort of take into my picture of her some new details that weren't in the way that I'd metabolized her into my own body and brain, that were like fairer to her. But anyway, this sort of euphoria comes from feeling kind of closer to death, and also closer to, just witnessing it, and also closer to just this life force of my father. He just seems like sort of a magical person right now, just because he has that much access or something to the end of life. And yeah, and I don't know, maybe the part of me that's ascendant or that's present is the enthusiasm and the sort of joy that's a little bit has some sadness and tears in it, like overwhelmed feeling, sort of supernatural feeling.
Uh-huh. Is the overwhelm like all of it emotions, or is it the sadness that feels like it could be the overwhelming part?
All of it, just like it's just a beauty of life. I can't believe I got to be conscious in this world for however long, kind of feeling. And yeah, I mean, I've made a point of putting on my calendar to like touch that graveyard that we've talked about on a regular basis, the kind of teeming with microbes place. And that feels also kind of awesome to just sort of have that feeling under my feet. And just sort of earthy feeling, where this feels a bit more skyward feeling. Like I've just been meditating on the sky or looking up a lot, on even to just the ceiling. And that feels right. Like something's going on up there.
Sounds really incredible.
It definitely feels really good. And the parts also seem, I mean, I don't want to make this a short session, but maybe it could be like my parts feel very in harmony. Like they feel checked in with. They feel like sort of how I've heard you sound, or like Dick Schwartz sound, which is like, this is what it looks like when it's going all right. It's not like anybody feels neglected. They do feel heard and loved, and I don't know.
It's kind of a contentedness.
Yeah. And also, I really do have that vibe from you of just like self energy and the recent, even you're sort of distancing yourself from the Discord a bit. I just know you're out in these like green pastures or something.
Yeah.
And that feels really good. And that also is conveyed because I associate IFS with you so much. It just feels like you're bringing that into the world more. I don't know.
Yeah, trying. Okay.
As for checking in with parts, like they're currently just it's not presenting so many trailheads, my life. I mean, there are lots of opportunities to kind of tune into the harmonies of the parts more than there are, itchy moments that I need to figure out, why did I think that? Oh, I did hear about that. I sort of felt this out yesterday, but I did hear about a party that I wasn't invited to. And I had, a nice moment of, or nice, but I mean, a productive moment. Yeah. Productive moment of like feeling excluded, feeling jealous, feeling maybe not good enough, but mostly just like excluded from the like happy social world. And to kind of, spread some self energy to that part. And yeah,
that's the cure. I'm just looking at some of my notes, what you have mentioned. I mean, you did talk about overwhelm, and maybe even if it's if you're kind of inviting all of the ups and downs and feelings, if there's, and even if it feels good or great right now, I wonder if there's like, is there a concern or some work to be done around like what could be overwhelming, what, how do I make sure to where am I at a limit and need to look out for
a crash. Yes, that seems right. At the same time, I don't want to put some brakes on it just arbitrarily, just to be like, well, I don't deserve all this. But
yeah, does any part feel like it is in jeopardy of being pushed too far, of having too much of whatever?
I think not right now. I do think last time we talked, I was feeling very irritable, and I think that went with some sort of mania and agitation, and what I keep thinking is like over functioning or spending too much time with the Olympian, feeling kind of better than other people, and that arrogant, and I guess, and that could again be a consequence, I guess, of this feeling. It could be manic. It could be like, I'm so solved, that I don't understand how other people get so dragged down.
Right. I'm above it kind of feeling.
Yes. But one thing that could be interesting is to go through the components of self and sort of see which one feels sticky, and not necessarily the C's, but it could be, or those, aren't there like P's also?
There are some P's. I know a couple of them offhand, but I got my phone here. I could. The only P, the P that I keep circled in my mind is playfulness.
Right.
That's the biggest one to me that's missing from the list of C's.
Yeah. Playfulness is present. I probably am less present to my friends, and less, if anything were missing, it would be, just I may be a bit quite self-absorbed. I'm not as irritable, and I'm not feeling that, but I could feel like whichever missing part of self is like more open to other people, or sort of.
Yeah. Well, the way you said it is like present for others. And I think that is a kind of a qualifier that makes it like, well, yeah, you can't be all the places all the time. So, So once you've added for something, then yeah, you're gonna not be fully present for something.
That's right.
But if you're enjoying if you're tuned in and listening to your most immediate experiences, which are within you, and responding to those and to the things that are within your whatever's at hand, and that's presence. I did just look up the 5 P's.
Oh, good. Tell me.
Okay. All right. Presence, playfulness, persistence.
Okay.
I'm thinking, like doesn't give up on parts. kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Patience.
I feel pretty patient, but that one could go with the irritability of, the sort of manic irritability.
And
I'm not there right now, but
perspective.
Huh. Yeah, there could be some grandiosity to this feeling. I mean, if it's somewhere between like an cocaine feeling and a ecstatic feeling, ecstasy feeling, like at its outer edges. And that seems like grandiosity, something like that. But I mean, I'm really digging to find ways that there's like a trailhead or a flavor of it, that color of it that's potentially like unwholesome or uncomfortable or whatever. I mean,
I just want you to know I really relate with that when you said the cocaine-y feeling. Like when I'm just thinking back to being in Vietnam most recently and having such an amazing time. And my biggest part putting on the brakes, or my biggest, like when I was having bad dreams or whatever, it was always like, are you just being drunk? Is this just drunk?
Yeah.
Because it's like everything's great. And it's kind of like that was the biggest red flag part in me is okay, is this scary because is this drunk?
I mean, yeah, exactly. At the same time, I know that you don't drink and I don't either, and I feel like maybe that there's nothing wrong with drunkenness per se, right? Just as a feeling.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't want to be such a moralist that I would be like, I'm not allowed to have this good feeling, I've got to tamp it down. But yeah, is this just drunkenness? And like trying to remember like what kind of asshole I was when I was drunk. Like that's why I think perspective maybe is like, maybe I'm a little too high on life to have, a perspective on suffering or.
Right.
But it's a bit distant, I mean, I really, and I mean, maybe it's silly, but I do feel like somehow I'm a bit in sync with you about this. Like, even though you didn't say much, about the Vietnam trip, I just had like this feeling that like, you were, in the stars in this good way or something. While
I was, and I was journaling every day, and I was like, the least I can do is take a lot of notes and that's kind of use my systems of like, so if I do fall off a cliff, I can at least go back and say like, okay, I was drunk. Here's the things, here's where my perspective was lacking. And that has been useful. And I've reviewed those. When I do have dreams that are scary, or if I have the same kind of scary dream a couple nights in a week, then I take extra time to be like, okay, what is this about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come with an element of maybe confidence and self-respect or something. I feel like I'm much tidier and better organized and punctual in this state. Like, I don't feel like I've lost the thread of, I don't know, I'm just taking like great pleasure in keeping my, like, tending to my sleep and exercise, and which feels like, I know I've referred to this before, but there's a like wonderful male voice in your montage at the beginning of the show, the guy being like, I'm eating more vegetables.
Yes.
And that's how it feels. It feels like this really did translate. IFS really does translate for me into kind of better behavior in the world.
Yeah.
In ways that like I kind of used to think of punctuality, tidiness as like clipping my wings, it's just like these irritating demands of the world that you like, good nutrition is just like someone telling me not to drink in the early days, or like you can't be happy and have fun.
Yes.
And now it feels like really, I don't know, like I was just like, wow, just gliding, like making, I mean, now I'm like, just for a second, I like just felt a little silly being like, yeah, fucking a little druggy, right? It's like, except the gliding, like just moving sure-footedly. And also there does seem to be some self-respect in it. Like, like putting on clothes, getting out, exercising, like, I don't know, just things that I felt like were either not respectful. I don't know what I mean exactly, except that it is.
I think
amazing.
I got it with the clip wings. They feel like constraints.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to live my life, and I got to brush my fucking teeth.
Right.
And then it's like, oh no, this is great. I like these things, and these things help me. I'm also wondering if you're having an experience of that also being a factor of kind of prioritizing where well, maybe you're not present for all your friends, but maybe some of those friends, they're on the kind of outer circle or whatever, and your priorities have shifted some to, I got to take care of myself. I got to take care of my dad.
Yes.
And this is really, and these are so important that I'm saying no to some things that have made these higher priorities more fun, easy, joyful.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think also my kids feel like they're really on their own paths. They're just like feel like children of the universe now. Right now, that obviously could change, but I feel less like obsessed with my relationship with them or their treatment of me, and a little more like seeing them as like these wonderful sovereign beings, and that feels really good. And as for the like teeth brushing, when I first got sober, I still like just didn't really put my seatbelt on, like a weirdo, like and just a little bit of recklessness with myself, like, and also like flossing. Whenever I hear about it, I'm just like, yeah, I'm never doing that. And just absent, like that seems to go with the self-respect.
Self-respect. It's just respect for the whole system respect.
That those needs feel really, they actually feel sort of foundational, or like an exile in a weird way. Like,
right.
Like I've neglected these like simple needs for safety and dental care.
It's another reason why the word parts is so nice. It's like, well, my teeth are a part of me.
I love that idea that our body parts are count as parts. It's so cool. Sure. And I think you said that about the microbes, like infinite number of intestinal parts or whatever. No, it really actually, it's very it's surprisingly clear when it's working well. Like, it could slip out of alignment, but I really was like, as you know, I was obsessed with getting a head count when we started and being like, where are all these parts, right? And they like when my reminder comes up to check in with them, it seems like I've got the head count. Like I'm like, right, that's a part. I'm not like thinking of something that's not described. You know, there may be 17 of them, and I'm confident that there's not
or
like an infinite number, which seemed really scary.
The routine or the process is well known enough that it's kind of like, well, if there is something that is lurking and that I don't know about, I have a process for that. My parts trust that we'll get to it. I can actually say I'll get to that, and I actually get to it, kind of thing. And they all are responding to that. So there's
sort
not.
of. There've been like these 3 things that I actually got into neurofeedback devices that have completely changed my life and surfaced various exiles in the body. So one of them is a bit of an overshare, but it's like this device that helps with Kegels and thus incontinence.
Okay.
So it's like a game that you literally play with your like Kegel pelvic muscles, with your pelvic floor. I mean, it's
I'm with
bananas.
you. I've also been studying pelvic floor stuff recently, so I'm with you. Yep.
So there's like one for men. I mean, the one for women goes inside your body. The one for men, I think you like sit on. I don't know. I don't know much
weights.
about male anatomy. Oh, lifting weights. Yeah. Well, so
I was kind of joking, but I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. There's someone that I don't know anything about male anatomy, so I'll just back out of this one before I go too crazy. But so it ended up that this thing that I've been trying to address for ages, like before childbirth, I've just had this issue, and it's like I lost the thread of part of my body. Like I didn't, like I said to the physical therapist once, like it feels like you're asking me to like lift a weight with my hair. Like I just don't have anything there.
Not connected.
Not connected. And like somehow it lost the wiring and kind of early on. So I was sort of, and then she mentioned there's this device called PeriFit it's a device and an app. And the app is literally playing app games like let the jewel through, but keep the rock out of these like kind of whatever. And so and then you're playing like, I'm playing and I look like I'm playing with my mind. You can like use this thing, whatever. It doesn't look like anything. And it was really annoying and I was terrible at it at first. And I played for like 10 minutes a day, but sometimes I miss some days for 2 weeks. And it's totally, I'm like the most continent person. I'm just probably like most people. I'm like, I have to pee now. And now I'm done. And and it was so, like I'm just, hey, just gotta pee. Now I finished. Now I'm done. Don't feel any of that anymore. And, this was something that was just buried so deep. I mean, I was like,
sure.
Often like I'm headed for adult diapers and like just in my head, like I definitely never talked to anyone about it. And there was like always Febreze in my purse. And like, I've even had surgery to like deal with it. And it didn't correct it. And so this was just like literally communicating with my pelvic floor, a part of me,
Yeah.
And treating this exile that, I was like a bedwetter as a kid. And my mom got this like kind of like torture device to like metal things that I would set off an alarm when I peed on them. And like a guy came in and installed them and it was very humiliating. And it also didn't work. Although it probably was a version of like very primitive version of biofeedback. But all that embarrassment and like it's just been shoved in the basement. I mean, like
Right.
so deep that I'd never even bring it up with therapists. My friends
Right.
didn't know.
Right.
And only now that I'm like ace at being, can I do,
That's
am I trying,
awesome.
talking about it a bit. Yeah, super cool. And um then I was like, oh, could there be other ways that I could like talk to my body?
Mm-hmm.
And I got really into this meditation focus device called Focus Calm that monitors. It's like in home EEG.
Yes,
Goes on your forehead.
that one you've mentioned.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I
Which
looked that
for
up.
meditation, you looked it up. Yeah, I think it like for people who carry anxiety in their whatever prefrontal cortex or like right anyway, it was just this like uh I was terrible at it. I got better about it. And I think that I had sort of I've meditated and tried meditation and meditated seemingly successfully for long periods of time, but like always had the secret nagging idea that like that I wasn't actually getting to the meditative state or not for a very long time. And I just do like the quantifying, and this will measure any drop you get in this kind of blue state of well-being and focus and calm is counts toward it. And then you play a bunch of things with an app, or not play them, but like you can do some of them if you're really trying for performance, like really hard games that like beep you when you get it wrong. And you have to stay relaxed, even though someone's telling you, the device is telling you you're losing or failing over and over.
Yes.
I'm not great at those, but I'm not like a special athlete. So maybe, I don't know. But with the relaxation games where like you get a bird through a thing to the extent that you like, you do better if you're relaxed. And there's one where you toast a marshmallow with your mind. I mean, I'm not like gadgets aren't for everyone and apps aren't for everyone. And a lot of people like think apps and gadgets are like anathema to being relaxed. But for me, has been a chance for my body to talk to me in a way I really understand.
I'm all for it. I think it's awesome. And
it's
I think,
cool.
We can't manage what we don't measure. And
yes,
it's like, just track things, get the apps, whatever.
Yeah.
Draw the X's on your calendar.
It's also parts work. Like you would, like if your bodies are parts, so like pelvic floor, forehead, just like talk to me, guys,
Yeah.
And then the last one is I finally just broke down and got this Oura ring thing that
Sleep.
was already sleep, exactly. And it has like heart rate variability and a few other things. And it's sleep, it tracks exercise, and it's just like sits on the, it's a ring. So it like, it sits on like what I assume is like a very good solid pulse in the middle of your, whatever, you turn it inward. And I'm actually taking it off right now to see where it's going. Okay. And that has been another form of communication that I really like having with my body. And the first two, I just started with the Oura Ring, but the first two, I would say the Oura Ring has introduced some more discipline or like just excitement about sleeping and readiness for the day and stuff like that. And that kind of has gone with the punctuality and tidiness. Not to mention it captures every step, including around the house. And I don't have something that does that. So I'm sort of surprised at how, I don't know, it makes me want to like clean more. But then, so that's that part. And then the other two, the CariFit is obvious to me as the number one because it just literally changed my life. Like I just feel like less, I don't know, all of it, less humiliated, less undignified, less, just more of every kind of self energy. And
you had the clarity and the courage to acknowledge it and to take the step to get the thing and to try the thing and talk to the doctor or whatever. That's when people ask me about IFS and physical health. I'm like, well, I'm in the best physical health I've been in. Yeah, yes, I fixed my back pain, and they're like, oh, because your back pain was apart, and I was like, well, it's not exactly that I just sat down and said, okay, back pain, tell me what's the matter, and now I fix it. But I gave myself permission to recognize it as a part that of myself that needs love and attention like the rest of them, and stop exiling it and stop keeping that door closed for we're just going to live with this or ignore it or whatever else.
And like, this is my fate. Like, that's definitely what I thought about the like Kegel stuff. I was just like, yeah, I'm just like this fucked up person that doesn't, doesn't get a working, bladder or whatever. And I just, it's just a source of humiliation and probably resentment that like by me, like a huge number of weird emotional.
Sure.
Yeah. And getting that to dissipate is, yeah. And then also, right, like somewhere in there, I got the confidence, like that something could work, like the optimism that I didn't have to just, have this. I think that's it. Like, there's a lot of currently things in my life. They seem like small things, but, just, it's very, I know it's like very close to what you do, but all the like calendars and stuff that I had kind of neglected, journaling, like, I just, I don't know. They just seem like they make perfect sense now, you know?
Yeah.
Where I definitely thought of them as like ridiculous, like either Oprah things or New Age things or just like bullshit discipline things or, and, some like normal person behavior is starting to make sense.
Right.
And I had this recording I had to transcribe and get transcribed or transcribe with AI. And it was muddy. I had made it and just somehow fucked it up. And I listened to it and it was like in the old days, something like that, like would be just heart stopping. But I just found people who are good at audio. Probably could have gone to you. And they cleaned it up. And also I didn't need to use the audio. I just needed a transcript. And I just tried it with different AIs and cross-checked them against the improved audio. And I have like a really good transcript. And I skipped the heart-stopping place and the self-hating place. And, moved to
and you were persistent.
Yeah. And just thinking, I think the incontinence thing really started because I was like, there is no solution. Like if someone, was like, do more Kegels, I was like, really? You think that's the first time anyone's told me that, And, and then I don't know. It just seems like optimism, hope. It also helps that my dad is like, this is the happiest time of my life. Like you can be told you have 6 months to live. And it opts, in his case, he opted for steroids over morphine for pain relief, which has been working for him. And also a little bit of Ritalin for energy.
All right.
And it's pretty funny to see your dad on speed and steroids, like at, as he's at the end. But he just feels like overwhelmed with gratitude, and it's really good to see. It's brought out that side of him even more than ever. And I think that's also giving me hope by, that it's contagious. lust for life right now.
Yeah. Awesome.
How do you feel like when, like, does the word harmony describe it to you? Or how do you feel when self is in charge?
You mentioned gliding earlier. There's a feeling that I have trouble putting in words where I call it feeling like I'm on time instead of late, instead of behind the ball.
Yeah.
It's like, you know that feeling when you're early for something, or when someone else is 10 minutes late for the meeting and you're like, oh, great. That's exactly what I needed was 10 minutes to get ready for this meeting. And they blessed me with it. Yeah, it's kind of that feeling. And I think that comes from, if I'm communicating with parts, then I'm preempting, I'm hearing here's what's going to go wrong. And I'm like, okay, what do you need before I walk into this situation? And then I feel on time because there aren't parts that are lagging behind saying, wait, you haven't heard from us. You haven't checked in.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right. Like, if that seems really right on. And do you feel like in this like period of well-being for you that that's how you've been feeling?
Yeah, I feel like I'm also in a place kind of like you are, where a lot is going on, and a lot of it is big and scary and life altering stuff. But it feels right. It doesn't feel like too much, or that, I've made a big mistake. And there are those moments where those parts come up when I'm feeling down, and I do all of a sudden feel like, oh shit, I'm not capable of this. I'm not worthy of this.
Yes.
I'm gonna fuck everything up, and I'll say it out loud, or I'll journal it, or I'll share it with someone, and then it's so obvious to me. It's like, oh, that's exactly what exile parts say. That's exactly what this part says that I've checked in with 100 times before. And once I see that, it's like, okay, yeah, I know how this works.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there definitely been huge swaths of time, if not kind of as long as I can remember, that I thought, I'm living a pretty demanding life, like career and kids and all that stuff. But really, I should be like in an asylum where all I do is like, I should be like in a helmet and bib. Like, I'm not really ready for.
Not capable.
Yeah. And just like, why did someone like me have to take on this stuff? Because I really should be in an asylum. Like, watercolor should be my most strenuous thing, And like, this is all wrong because why do I have to think like a fighter pilot when I'm barely sane, Yeah. And it's funny because to think that is an exile voice, not like the real voice, like that has seemed like who I really am, like hiding behind a kind of mask of normalcy,
right?
Like, really, I'm this crazy person, like living somewhere else, instead of thinking that crazy person is a part, that is like, actually, I mean, even now, maybe it's like the first time I've sort of seen it that way.
And it's a valuable part, and there's nothing wrong with that part. And doing some watercolors and taking a day off might be exactly what it needs and what I need.
Right.
It's like, it doesn't have to be either or, of either I'm crazy or I'm normal or whatever. It's like, no, I can be all those.
Right. I don't have to also say like, no, crush that memory, crush that thought, or I'll lose my ambition, or, don't think about that like horrible kid in the helmeted bib thing, you know?
Right.
And
right.
also, just now, when you like, I have a very clear idea of that asylum. And it's kind of like my only fantasy of being super rich is that, like, if you're crazy and you're super rich, maybe there'd be like people who would wait on you all the time, and you would like have like gentle activities, and no one would make any demands of you. And like they'd give you morphine and whatever. And so part of it is like, you know, and I sometimes, like, when I just feel very broken, I'm like, I'm entitled to that. Why do I have to like work? You know,
Right.
like this
right.
is wrong. And so that there's another component of it that's like more accessible to me, of like jealousy for like a life of leisure, you know, or no responsibility, or like, and I can easily conjure. I mean, I don't have a watercolor set, but you know, there are days where I can sit outside with a blanket over my lap, you know, writing or whatever, like weekend days. And I can just be in that feeling, you know? And yeah, to think like that's what that side needs. It doesn't actually need like a dose of like a frontal lobotomy or something. It just needs like some feeling of just like leisure and expansiveness and no demands, you know?
And knowing that it's not wrong for wanting any of that. It's not wrong to feel the way it does.
Right. Like, it's the thing that it's also like that jealousy for the rich is not humiliating in the same way that I might think it was. It's because the thing that I covet is not like cars or whatever. It's just that expansive feeling of like sitting in a chair with a blanket, you know? Like, it's like one time this person was like, I asked this person, like, what's the best thing about being rich? And he was like, getting a club sandwich rolled into my hotel room. And I was like, wow, that's like, you could do that without a lot of money, you know?
Right. Well, yeah, or like there's a lot of sitting around you can do when you're homeless too. I mean, you can find things to be envious of in others, and then when you kind of look closer of like, what is it that I really want here?
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like the money is just a proxy for like lots of self energy and like, you know, and you just want someone to give you a club sandwich. What is a club sandwich? Like toast and some bacon and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? And if you, you know, if you asked a friend, put it on some rolling thing and just were in your nicely made up bedroom, you could have the feeling that all billionaires seek without having to make all the money, which sounds really tedious. And I mean, just self energy as a route to that feeling you think you could have if you were perfectly beautiful and perfectly set up and like that's the thing everyone's after. It's just that like feeling of well-being.
Right.
And that's just pretty cool. It's like, it seems like it's, you know, like having an account that generates endless interest and always is replenished or something. I think also the fact that I'm thinking of like my dad living on in my brain and heart is like thinking about it. Immortality is also thinking like about self, because isn't it like a thing that cannot die or be destroyed? Self. Aren't there like some ways that Dick Schwartz talks about it as like something deathless?
Yeah, there's a lot of different talk around that. There's is it Jay Early that he calls it source or something,
Okay.
So, there's, I don't know. I think it's safe to say that if it's something we all have, then kind of by its nature, it's always present because it's
Yeah.
always,
Even if it's in someone else, like, or collectively or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's just, that's a nice thought. And that also is sort of present when you feel like you're in self or you're around someone in self. And I definitely can, I can remember from here how intense and depressed and sad and angry I've been. I've had parts that are all those things in other sessions. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm not kidding myself that this is like some kind of permanent state. At the same time, I don't want to knock it, and there are ways of, not without any disturbance or trailheads or parts making their voices heard in troubling ways or in unsettling ways or something, and getting off the rocker of self. But there are like you right now, or Dick Schwartz when he talks, or some people when they talk and you can just tell they're already on it, who get to some place of relative selfness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works.
It really does. I mean, I thought that it worked session by session, or like unburdening by unburdening. But I don't think I thought that it could be a state that lasted more than a few minutes, and it just, like, even just telling you about the incontinence thing, or, all the exiles we've touched, feels like I just, like, something that I didn't think I'd ever be able to say out loud. The incontinence thing, that's a perfect one.
Right.
Because it's like so humiliating in the world.
Right.
And it's so uncool. It's so, it's so like, there's no, if you have a deep-seated thought that you're not worthy, which, on some level, I'm sure I have that part, or a part like that, then at least, other people have it. But nobody's like, oh yeah, that's familiar. You wear diapers and you're in your 50s. Anyway. So that guy's out.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but it's like that Ollie and Comfrey. It's like everyone can come out of hiding now. At the end of hide and seek,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there is something really powerful about having people to share it with, having people who have some familiarity with IFS in your life, so that when you are at a low point and you can just go and vent about something and trust that someone else can help you recognize this is a part, that's a part. So that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be sessions, but just knowing, having a community, having someone you can talk to who can just provide some of that perspective and say, okay, I see that part, and just helping you see them.
I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I have this friend who is really in pretty dire straits with addiction, and I don't think has much longer to live. Like, she has sepsis, and her life is like, her child isn't being taken away from her, and it seems like she's in some kind of end stage situation. And for some reason, even though I'm kind of the only person that stands by her, she she has like a list of resentments toward me from over the years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I knew she was on like a bender and said she hadn't slept in 11 days. And yet I knew she wanted to talk to me on the phone about these things that she,
mm-hmm.
Considered betrayals by me or
mm-hmm.
dishonesty from me. And I don't know why, but I was ready to hear them. Like, I just thought nothing. It was like just a few days ago. And we ended up on the phone for 6 hours. And I was just like, rather than like find a person in self, I was like very much wanted to talk to someone who had all these active, aggressive parts.
Yeah.
And it felt like I just felt really open and curious about all these different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like an onslaught,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Buddha or whatever getting those arrows fired at him. Just like, I mean, she just so much rage and mania and drugs and
you
but
can
all
see it
of
for
it,
what it is. You can have compassion.
Yeah. And she was like right on some of them, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And that was sort of interesting. And when my defenses came up, I would say, I'm going to be defensive. Actually, I quoted Olivia. I was like, of course, my head is filled with, as she one time said, pro-me propaganda,
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I told her that, actually. I used that phrase. And I didn't credit Olivia. So, Olivia, if you're listening, I meant to credit you. Yeah, so pro-me propaganda was coming up, and defensiveness was coming up, and, discomfort. And I was just like on my side, like coordinating, like just like in an orchestra of parts,
Right.
And then every now and then I'd be like, she's got a good point. And the good point, for example, she thought I'd been dishonest because I had called her parents worried about her, and she's very angry at her parents. And I didn't tell her that. And I didn't even really tell her that in the conversation. But she said, you've been dishonest. And I was like, yeah, she's got a point. Hi, dishonesty. Like, you're up. She called you up. And I have a chance to like be with you. And that felt sort of made me feel more connected to her because she was seeing that part clearly, and part that worries I'm not a good person, You're here too because, she was just from her point of view, she felt I hadn't been a good friend to her. And it just didn't seem worth trying to say, yes, I have, like why would I? I haven't been a perfect friend to her, and I'm not a great friend or a good person sometimes, or at least I worry that I'm not. And so the protectors were just standing down, and they were just like these raw exiles doing what they do. And in most cases, like unburdening and doing what they like to do. And that was crazy because it wasn't like exiles, go back, protectors, do your job. It was like everyone's just in this funny, weird little garden and taking in opportunities to like feel themselves, because they were like, a lot of them were being called out. It's like a really interesting, I mean, it wasn't obviously doing IFS with someone, but for some reason it felt like an IFS session.
Yeah, well, if you're being aware of parts and you're being self-led, then that's ultimately what the aim is. And I think that's why IFS is so simple, is that I have a couple lines that I try to remember to guide the process, but otherwise what's important is that I have my own parts out of the way, and that's my practice.
Yeah.
Or out of the way might be the wrong. attended to.
Attended to. Yeah, I guess what was kind of cool about this is like, you know, you ask like, do you have any parts you want to get to know? And this was like, I mean, it wasn't all of them, but it was like a huge or a solid cluster of parts that felt like they were all up, you know, and parts you want to get to know, right? And sometimes, including in this conversation, it's hard for me to find a part that I need to get to know right now. But that was like a session because it just called out, you know, a bunch of parts in 1 second, right? It's like there's nothing better than, you know,
a tormentor.
Oh my God, exactly. Like there's pretty much no one that I think could hear this conversation without thinking like, oh my God, I'm being called on the carpet for everything. Like tormentor, I forgot all about that. Exactly. And I think most of the time I wouldn't be in the mood for it. You know, like she wanted to have this conversation with another friend, and the friend was like, I am going to dodge that call, you know? And like, bless her, she just like, it wasn't in the mood for six hours of just like a tongue lashing. But also I was like, I don't know why, but I was in the mood for it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird one.
Awesome.
I don't feel like I have, I mean, I do some IFS with my therapist, but you know, she's like, no, you, but I do feel like peer work would be really good with someone who feels like they've benefited a lot from it and could sort of trade notes, but
yeah, maybe we could talk sometime about, you know, what that would look like, because there's so many different formats of that. And what I'm doing here with the podcast is such a, you know, the format hasn't changed since the first episode.
Right.
And that's, you know, I am always wanting and looking for other formats. I feel like in my own life, I'm content and doing what I want to do with my parts and in my relationships with parts work. But how we can help you, help others, and create something that is that peer work for the people who want that.
Yeah. I'm very, very open to that. I mean, like interestingly, by the way, a friend of, there's some like new thing where you can't get, you know, full certification now without in the IFS.
Being a professional,
yes,
without being a licensed mental health professional.
Exactly. Yeah. And my friend has just been super upset about that because she's a coach and she's had some training in IFS and she just can't afford to do the licensing. And I told her there's like this open source project and like you can learn all you need from listening to these sessions. I don't know what that means for like the formal IFS training, but I mean, what could be better than just listening to session after session after session? I mean, how many
That's
are
what I wanted.
now?
That's what I wanted.
Yeah. And create this kind of training document, you know, very long training document. How many are there now?
Well, I've probably published about 350. But I have another 100 in the backlog to publish.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Well, I think
another thing is, you know, when you call it like a very long training document, I think if you listen to enough of them, you realize how similar they all are. And
yes.
And it's like, oh, yeah, that's why I felt like I could start the project without the thousands of hours, because I could see the similarity. I could see some of where I needed to be in order to be in this seat. And
Yeah.
And here I am still without any formal training. I don't really even study it much anymore. I do listen to other people's sessions that I find. I find that really refreshing to learn, how other people navigate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as formal training goes, I don't know. It's a different story if you want to make it your living, but
Right.
I'm I'm living it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just find it really interesting. I mean, I don't, if I ever feel like something's pressing, or I feel like trying to learn what it might be like. I mean, you probably know where this is going, but like to kind of be on my own with this for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yes, do that. Yes, think about, what ideal kind of peer relationship would look like. And maybe you and I can even practice that and iterate on that as something that we can also invite others to as we, figure it out what works for us. And hit me up on Discord when you're feeling down and distant from parts. It's all those doors are open.
I would love to do that, because one thing I've also learned from Live IFS is that as you say, like other people's work is my work. There's like, I've never listened to one that was like, what's wrong with this person? Every time. Right. And it's more like the process, like I'm trying to sort of spot the protector and the manager, and if there might be a firefighter around, and like in the exile, and it's like this kind of cool mystery. And I also try to anticipate where you might go,
and spot the protectors in James and
what's right.
What's going on with him?
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. And that process never fails, like, of just listening, also never fails to help me. And I mean, I have less than zero training, so I've only been on this side, but I would love to be able to kind of co-facilitate, or whatever it's called, with you. That would be
you can do
amazing. And you can also tell me like, nah, I don't want to do this. But that seems really interesting. Like, it seems like a next step or something.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I was trying was having my daily time on Discord where people would come by and say hi. That pretty much no one did. So
I did that once.
Yeah, a lot of people did it once.
Okay.
But it was 95% or more of the time no one was coming. Granted, I'm there at 7 a.m. on the East Coast, so it didn't work for pretty much everyone else who's not on the East Coast. It's too early. But I do think that something like that, where it's like, here's a regular time and place, and even if it's for 20 minutes, people can come in and say, here's what's going on with me. Here's some parts. Here's what I'm feeling down about, or whatever.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I mostly, I think that's great. I really do. And, I like any time you say, either in the notes on the episode, or sometimes during the shows themselves, the sessions themselves, you sometimes say what's going on for you, and like I think that's really interesting. Like in the beginning, you would have like either back pain or other kinds of or feeling under the weather, and then you would talk about how that influenced the episode, and that made it possible to see how parts interact with other people, you know, and that was like helpful to understand, you know, the whole process for me.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes a lot of times I think I'm like on some kind of beam and I'm not entirely, you know, or like I'm pushing through some fatigue and I just haven't taken account of it, you know? And that was sort of interesting to see how something simple like that, just being aware of it.
Right.
Do you still do those notes?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm taking notes about every morning when I wake up, how am I feeling, this and that. I track a lot of things throughout the day. I'll just put a number or something on in a digital app. But, you know, I wasn't like doing this project helped me do that. So it wasn't like I'm really good at noticing what's going on with me, and so let me start a podcast. It's more like I started a podcast and that helped me become more aware of the things that were going on for me. So I guess that's just to me. I hope that's I don't know, encouraging to anyone who also wants to do things in the world. And it's kind of like what's this saying? You don't have to be great to start. You have to start to be great.
Yeah. Yes.
You know? Yeah.
Even just now when you were talking, well, when you say you put a number in and out, what it like a number, like a 1 to 10 pain, or what number?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm tracking. So,
okay.
And it's all, I'm only tracking things that I'm actively caring about. So, you know, I'll have months of I'm having gut issues, or I'll have months of I'm having back pain stuff, or my sleep is off, or I want to go from exercising half-assed to, you know, breaking a full sweat every day and something like that. So whatever it is I'm tracking, maybe there's 3-4 things that I'm tracking during a day. I'm basically just saying exercise 3 out of 5. And I just kind of know what those things mean. I'll put them into a daily note, which is in a Obsidian app. So just every day has a new note with a date on it. And then that's all. And then that's really easy to kind of compile that and look back. And then when I do go to my doctor, I can be like, look, here's this week where, because, you know, you make an appointment for the doctor and it's a month away. And by the time you get there, you're like, I don't even remember why I called you, you know? And just to be able to have that data and be like, look, you know, my gut was fucked up for 10 days here. And here's a couple other notes that I put in there about what was going on with me that day, what I ate, how I slept, how stressed out I was, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can all be done. It's 3 words here and 5 words there. And it's a shortcut on my phone that I just push the button and say, I took a good shit today and I'm done, you know? So that's my system. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds right. And I think I would have thought, well, I know I've thought that like body hacking or quantified self or whatever has sort of like forever bothered me, and thought like, oh, no, like I need, you know, to be thinking about myself all that much more. But I would have said the same thing about IFS, right? Like taking account of all this stuff is just like, I don't want my head up my ass all the time. And it kind of is crazy how much more life and productivity and compassion for other people it's brought. Like, it just seems like the least likely road to being a more humane person that you would just stare at your own.
Yeah, we're taught that it's selfish, and as I say in my outro, I believe that could be the most selfless thing is take care of yourself, take care of your parts, and look how you can show up for people.
I wholeheartedly believe that now.
Yay.
Love the outro.
Yes. Thank you for sharing all of your wins. It's been nice catching up.
The wins of the podcast, which as you know, I appreciate. I will see you on Discord, and it would be really fun to meet you in person someday.
Okay, well, catch me before I leave.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll find out.
Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do an American tour, and then we can do Live IFS Retreat 2024. Maybe in America. We'll see.
Oh, Vietnam. I'm in if it's Vietnam.
Yeah, get Justine to come back and for a good time.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day and be in touch.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.